Inside Boxing Weekly is brought to you by Manscaped.com. Promo code TGT20, 20% off your first purchase and free shipping. Make sure you check out Manscaped.com. I am your host for Inside Boxing Weekly, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, boxing author, which we'll get to here right off the bat, John Raspanti. How you doing, John?
Thank you, Mike. I'm doing great. How are you doing in Indiana there?
I am cold in Indiana, and we had snow the other day, but there is a little boxing to warm us up. I don't know how great it was, and we got a big fight coming up this weekend. First off, I want to bring up, you've written 3 books over the last few years, and I know I've read the first 2, Intimate Warfare, which you wrote with Dennis Taylor, pictures by Ed Mulholland. Great book about the Arturo Gatti, Mickey Ward fights. Also, Blood on My Notebook. You want to talk a little bit about those and then tell us about the new book that just came out recently?
Yeah, Blood on My Notebook. Yeah, I sent it to you a while ago. I have to send you a few more rounds. But yeah, Blood on My Notebook is just my experience as a boxing writer going back to 2009. So a long time ago, 11 years, how I started. The first stuff I ever wrote when I went to a lot of fights in Oakland and witnessed the great Andre Ward in action, and just that my whole journey through articles. You know, it goes through each year, and then anything that I thought was at least above average, I put in the book. It's like a collection of your greatest hits, hopefully. And then a few more rounds is with Jerry Fitch. It's the latest. It's been out for a few months, and like a Blood on My Notebook, the reviews have been fantastic, and we're thrilled. And a few more rounds is a little different than Blood on My Notebook because Jerry and I, we both wrote 10 chapters, and we alternate between. And he's a little older than I am, believe it or not. I know you're shocked by that, Mike, that anybody's older than I am.
I didn't know anybody was older than you.
That's what I mean. So he does his thing with his experiences as a boxing writer going back to the 60s and 70s, actually the 50s in some cases. And then me, I got my stuff later on, but still, it's kind of a nice collaboration of time periods and going back with boxers that we've run into and written about in our lifetimes, and how we've been very fortunate to have friendships. Like Jerry was very close with Tony Zale, the great middleweight champion who, fought Rocky Graziano in those great fights 3 times. And then I've had this tremendous friendship with Armando Muniz going back years. So it's kind of like that. It's personal and memories. I mean, I talk about stuff when I was a kid, when I went to first fight I ever went to at the Olympic in the 70s. So it was fun. It was fun. We wrote it really fast. And again, we're just thrilled at the response. All
right. Let's talk a little fights from this past weekend. We had Mike Tyson against Roy Jones Jr., which I never thought I would say in 2020. Of course, you also had the wonderful Jake Paul execution, should we call it, against Nate Robinson. And the pay-per-view numbers look like they're going to be over 1 million buys for this fight, which I think all the pay-per-view fights from this year, you could put them together and not get 1 million. Well, except for maybe Fury and Wilder, which may have been up around there. But does this tell us a sad state of boxing, or is it a good thing? And is this more Mike Tyson or Jake Paul? And I hate to say that, but Jake Paul has a huge following.
I hope it's more Mike Tyson and not Jake Paul. I mean, he's doing his best to make a lot of noise, and he's fighting an NBA basketball player. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I actually felt bad for Nate Robinson. I thought, well, you got the balls to go in there, and then you end up on your face and everybody's making fun of you and everything. But I think it was more Mike Tyson, obviously. It's like anything, Mike. Think of it like kind of like a sequel to a movie that we liked. These guys are both very popular, and Tyson has reinvented himself after going all the way down and coming back. Now he seems like people love him more than ever, and they just wanted to see these guys get it on, even though it kept being stated as an exhibition. A lot of people thought it was going to be a real brawl, and obviously Tyson made $10 million, and Roy Jones made whatever he made, and they're probably laughing all the way to the bank. But my opinion, I did see it the next day, and it wasn't. I had very, very low expectations, Mike. I didn't even write anything about it. I told the guys at Max Boxing, look, we're not writing anything about this because it's an exhibition. I don't care. Well, I was bored, so I watched it the next day. It wasn't bad. It was okay. So when you have expectations down on the curb, I guess when something is a little above that, then you're You're all right. But yeah, it was all right. I could have done without some of the other stuff, but the first fight was really good. Can't remember the guys who fought though. And then Beto Jack fought against a guy that I had seen numerous times in Sacramento. Just walloped on him, but never could put him down. But so what? He looked real sharp. And so it's curiosity, Mike. That's pretty much what it is. What I thought was just, it's been a long time, and people wanted to see these two guys going at it, and they did in big numbers.
Yeah, and my problem with it was it looked like Mike Tyson went out of his way not to hit Roy in the head. So I think the no knockout thing was truly in the contract. And
yeah, I thought he threw some pretty good punches, but I can't argue with you because I didn't watch it all that close. I will admit I had one eye on it, and then I'd kind of look away because it was 2-minute rounds, and it wasn't exactly enthralling or gripping or anything like that. It was just, I just thought that Tyson still had some of his speed, which impressed me at 54, and Roy Jones was doing his little, doing his little tricks and everything. So I don't know. I thought he might have thrown some pretty, what do we used to say with him, bad intentions with Tyson, but I can't really argue with you that it didn't seem like he was really trying to knock Roy Jones out. He was just, it's like a sparring session basically, and that's been said already, so I'm not saying anything original. Something like that. You're working on things, see what you got, and I don't want to hurt this guy, and I don't think Roy Jones had any desire to get into a mano, and you can't blame him. He's been knocked out 5 times in his career. The last thing he wanted to be done is knocked out for the 6th time in an exhibition by somebody who could still hit hard, obviously, and was in good shape, better shape than him. We saw Jones was gassed. What was that? The end of the first round or second round? He was on a stool.
I think it might have been the end of the first minute, John.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, that's not good. But he made it through, and whatever reason, it was entertaining to a degree. I'm not gonna just fall over and say it was great. It was not.
How about this? It was entertaining to watch Mike Tyson just walk into a ring. Because the thing is this, when we were younger, and this is the 80s and it's on HBO, Mike Tyson walking into a ring, whether you were a Tyson fan or not, created a buzz. And the thing that impressed me is this, Mike Tyson walking into a ring anywhere at any age, even if he's on a walker and he's 90, will create a buzz.
No, that's true. And you're right. I mean, he things people forget maybe, or maybe a lot of them remember this, is that he did, the way he entered the ring was the way Jack Dempsey used to enter the ring. And he loved Jack Dempsey, and he even had his haircut like, short on the sides like Dempsey. And he loved that, walking in the ring like that, like a warrior. And that used to cause, that was exciting. Much more interesting and exciting than, what's his name, doing jumps and doing all this dancing before he got to me. It was like, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's do this. And it definitely was an exciting time when he was rolling there for a while.
Well, I think the big winner was Snoop Dogg. I would rather hear Snoop Dogg do fight commentary than Max Kellerman.
Well, I mean, I will admit that I didn't really have the volume on, so I didn't hear a lot of what Snoop Dogg was saying.
Don't worry. He sucked too. I just really hate Max Kellerman.
Okay. Well, I didn't miss anything then. I didn't think I did, but
it was entertaining, especially when he made the comment about the middle of the second round that this really looked like 2 of his uncles at a barbecue getting in a fight.
That's funny. Yeah, that's a funny line. So you got to give it to him. He knew what this was. He wasn't taking this real seriously, obviously. And that's pretty funny right there. I would have laughed if I'd heard that one.
So you think we see Tyson Holyfield 3?
Well, Holyfield wants it, and that Holyfield always will have money issues, and I believe Tyson's better now, but he's still, he's not going to give that $10 million all to charity. I don't think he's supposed to give some of it to charity, but whatever he does, it's up to him. I don't know. It's a great question, Mike, because I don't know if Tyson really wants to get in there again with Evander Holyfield. He's got a lot of choices. But I don't think this thing is going to last very long. I think if they do it too much, people are going to get tired of it. It's going to be, this is just my opinion, one of those, if it's every other month and you got Shannon Briggs getting in there, people are like, the numbers are going to go. So if he does it maybe once a year or maybe every 6 months, maybe.
Well, I think with Tyson, it's possible we'd never see him do it again either.
Well, you don't know, right? He said he wants to do it again. Roy Jones is like, with Roy Jones, So I don't know. Holyfield's kind of calling him out and saying, yeah, they made excuses last time, so he's trying to needle him a little bit to get him in there. And I don't know. The thing that's intriguing, Mike, is if it happens, will it be a glorified sparring session? Right?
I don't think there's such thing as a glorified sparring session with Evander Holyfield.
That's what, and I think Tyson knows that too.
Yeah, I think that Tyson is cool with dancing around and not really getting in a fight and just putting on a show, because Mike Tyson has always been at heart a con artist. I mean, he always talked himself up great. He would sound great in interviews. You know, he would call people names in press conferences. He would sell a fight. But Evander Holyfield's going to want to fight. And my concern here is this, though. I think that these guys should be allowed to fight if they want to. But my huge concern with Holyfield is how much his speech is already starting to slur.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't seen him in a while, but I noticed that he's a couple of years ago. So it's worse now than just a couple of years.
I mean, you can tell there's issues, and he's older than Mike Tyson by a few years, if I remember right.
He is. Yes, he is.
So, and you know, Evander Holyfield, if you told him tomorrow you can fight Tyson Fury for the heavyweight championship of the world, Evander Holyfield would think he could win that fight.
Oh yeah,
and that is, I think that at heart is why Evander Holyfield has always been better than Mike Tyson.
Well, at least as far as going against each other, I mean, you know, it's so hard to say who was better. I guess you do say Holyfield, how many times he won the heavyweight title and all that. But
well, look at who they beat, John. I mean, that's the big thing there. I mean, you got a win over Bo. I mean, right there, a win over Bo is better than any win that Mike Tyson ever had.
Yeah, beating Riddick Bowe was very impressive. That's true. He lost to him, right? He lost to him also, but still getting in there and rumbling with Riddick Bowe, who was a hell of a heavyweight.
Yeah, well, put it like this: do you think Riddick Bowe would have beat Mike Tyson? Because I do, because I think Riddick Bowe, even when he wasn't in shape, had a ton of heart. I mean, if you look at the second fight against Holyfield, he weighed almost 250 pounds, and that fight was still razor close, and it was an absolute war for 12 rounds. I've never seen Tyson get in a 12-round war.
Yeah, it would have been hard for Tyson because those bigger guys, they always could neutralize him. And then we saw what Buster Douglas did to him. And Bo had a pretty good jab, so it would have definitely been too bad that they didn't fight, because it would have been a interesting fight. And yeah, Riddick Bowe had a hell of a lot of heart. I think that's why Holyfield respects him so much, and he's in bad shape too, which is that other side that we don't like as far as this goes, but. Yeah, and Tyson seems okay. He's talking good, and so there you go. I mean, I don't know what all that means. I think
I think so. When you look at these guys, Holyfield and Bowe were in a lot more wars than Tyson was. Tyson, I mean, let's face it, he went 11 rounds and 10 rounds and got beat up pretty good by Holyfield and Douglas. But outside of that, the Kevin McBride fight, he didn't take a bunch of punishment. Danny Williams, he was winning a fight till he just got tired and didn't give a damn and got knocked out. So when you look at his knockouts, I don't think, put it like this, Bowe and Holyfield in probably their 3 fights took 3 times more punishment than Mike Tyson took in his entire career.
Well, he got punished pretty bad by Lennox Lewis when Lewis stopped him.
But it's 8 rounds, and it's not 12. It's not competitive. I mean, I don't know. I forgot about Lewis. But outside of Lewis, Doug, I mean, there's 3 fights there. Every Holyfield fight was a war. Even if it was smoking Burt Cooper in the Omni in Atlanta, it was life or death. I mean, the only fight I remember from Holyfield where maybe it wasn't life or death would have been like the fight against Seamus McDonough.
Yeah, you know, you're right, actually. But you know what's interesting to me, Mike, is I don't know if it's genetics or whatever, but some guys can, like Jake LaMotta, for example. How many wars was he in his whole career? I mean, and he was fine. Up until he died, he was good. So I don't know what it is about that.
I think a lot of it is genetics. And the guy that surprised me that had no issues was Yaki Lopez, because Yaki Lopez spoke as well as any boxer I've ever talked to, clear as could be. I was worried about it when I first asked him about the interview, and then you start talking to him. This guy's as sharp as he was in 1975, and he was in more wars than all the guys we just talked about combined.
Yeah, I talked to him last year, and he was great. And my main man, my friend Armando Muniz, it talks very well, and he's doing well. And you know, every fight pretty much Armando was in was a war. Even when he fought guys, he didn't know any other way to fight. Some guys in our friend Randy Shields, he was in some he took some wicked shots during his
went
career.
12 rounds with,
Tommy Hearns and
Tommy
Sugar Ray.
Hearns, 10 rounds with Sugar Ray Leonard. Yeah. And I'd
And
really like to see the video of that fight if anybody's got it, because Randy still
too.
claims he beat him.
And a lot of people don't disagree with him.
I know. That's why I'd like to see it.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. Yeah, I agree with you. I've said it for years. It's genetics. It's just one of those things. You either can or you can't. You just see as you get older.
All right, let's move on from past heavyweights to current heavyweights. Joe Joyce stopped Daniel Dubois in what, for heavyweights today, was a pretty good fight. Joyce dominated the fight basically with his jab, and Dubois showed that he's 23 years old and doesn't have near the experience Joyce does.
Yeah, kind of a surprise. I mean, you and I talked about this, and I think we agreed. We thought that Dubois was going to win, and then when we talked later, I started to lose my conviction on it as it got closer. But I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't think Dubois was still going to win. When I figured he wasn't going to win was early when Joyce was pumping that jab into his face, and he had no clue what to do. He didn't really duck much. He didn't really move, and it was because he had never had that done to him. So all the pre-fight talk about him getting in with someone who he shouldn't be in with yet was really coming true. I mean, Joyce had the Olympic pedigree. Not that he's anything spectacular, obviously, but that jab was ramrod, and it was nailing Dubois over and over. I thought in the middle rounds, Dubois was coming on, and he hit him with some shots, and I think he was a little like, wow, he didn't even flinch. So obviously Joyce has a good chin. But he's 35, so he better get going on whatever he's going to do. I don't see him as a big threat with any of the big guys.
I disagree on Joyce. I think Joyce could be a threat to Joshua.
Well, I was going to say before you jumped in that if he hits Joshua, yes, but I don't know. I mean, he probably could hit him with a jab too, because Joshua is. If anybody, Joshua's we're always going to wonder about Joshua because of what happened to him. And we already knew his chin wasn't that great anyway. So even when he fights next weekend, you're going to wonder, well, if Pulev can clip him. So there's always going to be good about Joshua, but I don't think he beats Tyson Fury.
No, I don't think he beats Tyson Fury, but I think he could beat Wilder. And I mean, I think this. I think Joe Joyce can take a punch, number one, because Daniel Dubois can punch. If nothing else, he can punch. And I think Joe Joyce would probably be losing both of those fights against those two guys late into the fight. And I think with his consistent jab and being able to take a punch, I think he would have a shot to beat them both. I think he would starch Wilder because Wilder's a bitch anyways. But I think with Joshua, I think he would have a legitimate chance. And I'm sorry, but Deontay Wilder, I mean, is crying about every excuse in the book now anyways. And it gets really old. And it makes you question whether, the invincibility has been shattered. I think there's no doubt it has. I think there's probably a fair amount of heavyweights with any kind of skill right now that would beat him.
Yeah, and back to Joyce for a minute. He's talking about they're talking about him fighting Usyk, and that's a good fight. That's a good fight, right? And we'd find out a little bit more. But yeah, Joyce did surprise me, Mike, and I want to see how he does in his next fight. But yeah, he did. And Daniel Dubois will be back. I mean, he knows what he did wrong. Hopefully he can improve on that. And because he's still got ability and he could punch, he'll be back. He's just got to learn maybe to bob and weave a little bit and do that a little bit. But yeah, well, Deontay Wilder, I just say this. You called him the B word. I'll call him the C word, which is not that C word, people. I'm talking about crazy. I think he's crazy.
Either one would work, John. Go ahead.
He's crazy, and it reminds me a little bit. George didn't go this far, but after George Foreman got beat by Muhammad Ali, I'm sure you remember he said he was poisoned and he fired Dick Sadler, and he went through all this stuff about things were all wrong there. And I do believe that mentally you think that nobody can beat you. Now, how Wilder thought, well, he hadn't lost. Well, he had lost, really, technically.
Yeah.
And he was losing other fights. So you'd think if he had any perspective on himself, he'd think, look, I'm losing rounds here and I'm hitting guys with one punch and knocking them out. There's going to come a time where I'm not going to be able to do this. But obviously, he either believed in his own hype too much or he had friends telling him all the time, you're going to keep winning like that, which, as we know, is ridiculous. And he just wasn't very good. We know that. He was okay. He could punch. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, and I think the question with Danny Dubois is the same thing, though. He was knocking everybody out. Everything was easy. I'm not as sure he comes right back. I think he has every capability of coming back and being even better, but I think a lot of that's going to depend on what's between his ears.
Oh, definitely. And it did bother me that when he was sitting in his corner, the announcer said that he was shaking or whatever. And it was like he had never been in this situation. So does he have that, what it takes to do that profession, as we know? And he might not. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of questions about him going on.
My guess from watching that fight, and I hate to say this, and I hope I'm wrong because I really like him, I don't think he does come back from this. I don't think he improves from this. I think you got a guy that's probably going to be ranked somewhere between 7 and 12 most of his career, get 2 or 3 title shots, get knocked out 2 or 3 times, but he'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, and very possible. But you know what? If I was him, I'd say, okay, look, I know what I did wrong, so I can work on it. It's like anything in sports, Mike. You know. Say you got a weak left hand at basketball, you're going to work on your left hand so you can go to your left more when they're playing it to go to your right. So he's going to know. Look, that jab was sticking me. I fight a guy like this again, they're going to be pumping their jab at me because they know it's a flaw. So you would think his trainer would be smart enough. That's another story. His trainer, we discussed that a little bit, was. I don't know what was going on with that guy during that fight, but I don't know. It's just we're going to have to see. I'm not 100% convinced. See, I didn't convince myself even what I said. I believe he comes back, but what he is, this might be it. This might be as good as he'll ever get. You might be right. I think he can be a little better, but I thought he was better than this when I first saw him knocking out people. And it just proves that you really don't know anything. We've said this 100 times until a guy gets in with another guy who's equally as good or whatever. Then you find out the level that he's really at.
Yeah. So the good thing for Dubois is it's only 23 years old. All right.
Yes.
Over in the UK, Martin Murray gets his 75th chance at a world title as he'll fight Billy Joe Saunders. Does anybody care?
No. I hate to say that because you know how much I love boxing, but I don't think they care there. Nobody cares here. I haven't written anything about it on Max Boxing. Sounds terrible. I mean, I might have something about the results, and I'm 99.9% sure that Billy Joe Saunders will win.
Unless he gets all coked up the night of the fight.
Well, yeah, there is that. But Martin Murray is a great guy, nice guy. He's had a lot of shots. He gave Golovkin a little bit of trouble, if you remember, until collapsing, I think, in the 11th round. But I don't know. Billy Joe Saunders is trying to come back, too, from some of his own stupidity and other things. And your original question, does anybody care? Maybe the families do and a few people in the UK, but obviously not very many people, if any, in the United States care at all.
All right, so there's no reason to talk about it. Next up, Errol Spence will fight Danny Garcia on Saturday night on pay-per-view for like $79, which is stupid. But yes. When I look at this fight, Garcia's 2 losses were quality losses against really good fighters. They were close fights. Yep. I think this is Errol Spence's toughest competition, just style-wise, and just with the makeup of Garcia. I think Garcia has a legitimate chance in this fight.
Yeah, he does, and I saw that when I was looking at some predictions from so many people, and 36. I don't want to call them experts. I don't know who's experts or not because we get things wrong all the time. Whoever we consider ourselves, 20 picked Spence and 16 picked Garcia. So it was pretty close, with the prediction thing. I give Spence the edge, but I don't quite know what he's going to be. I think he's going to be fine because I don't think they would have taken this fight unless he was. Then again,
got to get paid. Right?
Maybe he's got debts up to and he had to take it. He had to find out. There's always those questions about it. Garcia drives me crazy sometimes, Mike, to be honest, because he's got some ability and he's good. But I had some fun with his nickname Swift because I've never considered him Swift. So I had a lot of fun with a little article I wrote about it. But he doesn't. He waits too much. Like I could do better now. So take this way that you're going to take it. But his counter punching is good. But then again, I always feel like he's holding back a little bit. And when he fights Errol Spence, I believe it's got to be all the way. He's got to fight with a sense of urgency, kind of like he did when he fought Granados. Remember, for the Chicago native that we both like so much? He kicked the living crud out of him, and I think Granados was just as surprised as everybody who watched it. I know I was. Then he comes back against Ivan Redcash, and he's the same old Danny, waiting. And holding back, and you're like, and he wins a unanimous decision. Fine, he wins, but so I think it's balls to the walls here. I think if he wants this, because I don't know, he might get another shot if he loses, but if he wants to win, he's going to have to win. You know, none of these split decisions, razor decisions that he got a gift against Mauricio Herrera. Anybody who ever watched that fight knows it. And then the fights with Thurman and Porter, they were close, but I thought Thurman and Porter both won those fights. He can say that he didn't lose them, but that's fine. But I thought he did. So I think he's got to just up the ante a little bit here. You know, just be a little more active. Try to get off first. Pound on Spence. See what's there. You know, hit him. Not wait. Get off. Hit him. See what happens. Because maybe Spence doesn't know either. Sparring is one thing. Real fight's another thing. So we'll see. Did you just freeze up, Mike? So I'll just keep going then. Yeah, I like the fight because I don't like the price. I'll agree with you. $79.99 is too much, but I like this because Errol Spence hasn't really fought anybody of this caliber, and Danny's a two-time champion in 2 divisions, so maybe he's underrated, but he's a good fighter, and he's got more than a chance, even though some people think he does, some people think he doesn't. So that's what makes it an intriguing fight here. And we'll just have to wait and see. But I'm looking forward to it. So I think it'll be a good one. Again, I agree from what you said that $79.99 is too much. But you know, we've got this fight, and then the following week we've got Joshua. So we'll find out a lot about Errol Spence this Saturday. What he is, I still think he's going to be what he was to a degree. Well, see, I have doubts. I have doubts about what he'll be. But again, I don't think they'd take this fight unless they thought he was good. Unless. And then Danny Garcia, you know, it was interesting that Angel Garcia has been pretty quiet here leading up to it, other than saying his son's going to knock out Errol Spence, which, you know, most trainers would say, so that's no big deal. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on here on this talk. So I mean, I guess I could talk about my books a little bit more. They're right behind me. Mike said I could grab one. I think I'm going to. Yeah, there's a few more rounds. So this is with Jerry Fitch, and this is the latest one. It's on Amazon, and you know, it's a little skinny one, and it's got a bunch of pictures, and you know, it's there's one with me. Oh, here I am. That's in Reno, where Jack Johnson fought James J. Jeffries. So yeah, so that one, this book was like a blood on my notebook in a sense too. There was like a labor of love with Jerry and I, and we just said, well, you want to write a book? And it's like, well, yeah, I guess. And he had never collaborated before, but he jumped in, and I jumped in, and away we went. So it didn't take us more than about 4 months to write it all and put it all together. And you know, it's like I always like to say, those guys are my babies back there, those books. So very proud of them. Intimate Warfare was the first one, the one that Mike talked about earlier too, and that one, you know, that one's Gotti and Ward, and you research Gotti and Ward, you're just doing what I just did. And that's when you're watching their fights, and they just were incredible to watch. I was lucky enough to watch them live and then watch them again when I wrote the book, and again and again and again, trying to see different nuances. And I mean, it was incredible. So let me see. Maybe Mike's trying to contact me here in another way. Let me see. See if Mike is. Hey, Mike.
Well,
Okay, so this isn't recording right now?
I don't know. Does it say it is?
It says live.
Just exit it.
Okay.
And hopefully it will save it because we were pretty much to the end of the show anyway.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, God, what happened? Shoot. Okay.
I know.